new Battlefield Draft, and Argus buff. Hey guys, what's up? Today we're checking out the latest update on Advanced Server. First is the new Battlefield Draft. In this event, players are given 3 Battlefield effects to vote for. We have Fortified, which gives shield to all towers, including the inner ones. External Strength is the permanent buff when killing the turtle. And Everlasting Turtle, which makes the turtle not disappear after 8 minutes. So whichever Battlefield effect gains the highest votes, the developers will apply it on ranked games for Epic and above. The implementation stage lasts for 4 days, after which a new voting event will start again. This cycle repeats 3 times, and after that, a mystery mode will happen. There will be no voting during this stage, and we won't know which Battlefield effect the developers will apply. In the first stage, the Everlasting Turtle had the highest votes, and it's now live on ranked games here at Advanced Server. I guess the developers are aiming to give more variations to the game. This is good to keep it from getting stale. The only problem is our casual players. They might get confused with the ever-changing Battlefield effects. But then again, if the adjustments aren't that game-breaking, then I see it as a good way to make the game more interesting. But how about you? What do you think of this Battlefield voting event? Moving on, we have the return of Argus's experimental adjustments. His passive will no longer gain Malice energy over time. In return, they've increased his energy gain per attack from 10 to 20 points. And here's the big one. Energy gain from critical strikes is increased from 5 to now 20 points. With this feature, you'll want as much critical chance as possible to rank up his passive attacks. Next is his second skill. They remove the bonus Malice energy when attacking a cursed target. In exchange, we have a new effect that grants him 100 Malice energy when the skill hits an enemy. As you can see, one hit and my energy is full. But that's not all. Excess Malice energy will be stored for the next basic attack. Right here, I have a half energy bar. Now I'll use second skill to fill it up. After using the passive basic attack, my energy bar returned to half because the excess energy was stored. That means you can do a double passive attack by filling up the energy and then his second. Neat, right? You can even do 4 consecutive passive strikes by adding critical items and his ultimate skill. Wait, that was actually 5 times. That's one crazy damage, right? Now let's try it on a normal item build. Maybe you won't need Inspire with this update. Now let's move on to his ultimate. The duration of his ultimate is adjusted, where the transformation will now last 4 seconds. And if you receive fatal damage, the ultimate will extend for 4 more seconds. The cooldown of this skill is now longer, however, there's a new added effect. If you do not receive fatal damage during the ultimate, the skill's cooldown gets reduced by 50%. As you can see, it's cut in half when I don't activate the death immunity. Now you can use your ultimate to scare enemies. To balance these changes, they had to weaken the movement buff during the skill. Overall, this is a pretty strong buff on Argus. The improved passive energy and better ultimate should give him the firepower that he desperately needs. It will be nice to become meta once again. Next are more adjustments to the revamped Granger. The number of his first skill bullets have been reduced from 10 down to 6. But in return, his last bullet will now deal critical damage. So yes, the crit is back, but it's only on his first skill. The energy cost is also lowered to 300, allowing you to spam the skill more often. To balance, they had to adjust the damage of each bullet. And there's also an additional 20 points against minions and jungle creeps. So now it's a requirement to hit the enemy with your last bullet, unlike before where you just spam your skills. Moving on, we have the adjustment on Nolan. He will now receive heal each time he activates an exploding rift. And it scales with his physical attack stats. To balance, they had to add 0.5 seconds of cooldown to his first and second skill, so it's a nerf on his mobility in exchange for sustain. Honestly, I don't think he needs that heal because his gameplay revolves on bursting enemies and then quickly retreating to safety. Getting healed at the cost of his mobility doesn't fit well for an assassin like Nolan. Next is the return of Cyclops' experimental adjustments. His ultimate is now faster just like this. To balance, they had to lower its damage by almost half. But in return, the cooldown is way shorter than before. Imagine from 43 seconds down to 18 at max level. This means it can become a spammable skill with enough cooldown reduction. Another adjustment is the immobilize item. From a maximum of 2 seconds, it's now down to 1.5 seconds, and it depends on the travel time just like before. Next, we have Joy and her faster second skill. It's now quicker to activate the next second skill in the hopes of lessening the waiting to activate her ultimate. This means she doesn't have to stay longer in team fights. Next is Mathilda. Using first skill will no longer stop her from moving. And the range is now bigger. In return, they had to shorten the range of her second skill. The dash distance is still the same, only the range after the dash is affected. Next, we have the lower mana cost for Belerick. His first and second skill will now use less mana. Next are the item adjustments. Clock of Destiny will gain 10% cooldown reduction to its stats. However, the amount of mana it gives is cut in half from 800 down to 400. Wishing Lantern will have an additional 5 points of magic damage, and they've added 400 mana to its stats. To balance, they had to increase the price by 80 gold. Cecilion, Alice, and Zushin can now use this item. Thunderbelt damage gets nerfed. The true damage will now scale with extra defense instead of total. This means the base defense of heroes are not included in the damage calculation, but the defense from skills, items, and emblems is still included, so weaker true damage for Thunderbelt. Next is the optimization of the cancel button. You now have to hold for 0.1 seconds after you drag your skill into the cancellation range to cancel a skill cast. This is to prevent accidental cancellation when aiming your skills. Based on my games, I always do this when using Franco's hook. Have you experienced this before?
Time to teach you guys a lesson.
Last are the new skill indicators and skill range for some heroes. The most prominent one is Gord's first skill. You can now see where his balls will land. As for the rest, the developers improved the lines to clearly see the range of a skill. Example is Odette's ultimate. As you can see, the edge is now more visible. Another example is Diggy's ultimate. And that's it for our weekly advanced server update. What can you say about the new Argus? Do you like the Battlefield voting event? Share your thoughts in the comment section. That's all for this video. Stay safe and thank you for watching.